Are you lost, too? A little girl asked a lonely single dad at the airport. His response melted hearts, but what happened next nearly broke them both. The father sits in a windowless room, wrists zip-tied to a table, staring at a security chief who's scrolling through a phone with a predator's smile. On the screen, a video of the father kneeling beside a child, their hands touching, the kind of image that ruins lives in 30 seconds. By morning, the security chief says, "Your face will be everywhere." The father doesn't respond. He's thinking about his daughter, 7 years old, waiting somewhere in this airport with a victim services coordinator she's never met, probably terrified, probably blaming herself. She always blames herself when things go wrong. He taught her to help people. He taught her that when you see someone suffering, you don't look away. And now, she's watching her father get punished for doing exactly that. The father closes his eyes. He can still see the little girl's face, the one he helped, the one who asked if he was lost, too. He told her the truth. He said yes. He said he'd been lost for 8 years, ever since he witnessed something in a war zone that shattered him so completely, he walked away from everything he'd ever been. He came home. He got a night shift job loading trucks. He raised his daughter alone in a 1-bedroom apartment where she draws pictures and he makes pancakes, and they pretend the world isn't broken. But tonight, the world found him anyway. "You'll never see your daughter again," the security chief says, and something in the father's face shifts. Not anger, something colder. The expression of a man who's already lost everything once and knows exactly how much he's willing to sacrifice to protect what's left. "You don't know who I am," the father says quietly. The security chief laughs. "I know exactly who you are. A nobody." But he's wrong. If you believe that kindness should never be weaponized against good people, stay with this story, because what's about to unfold will break your heart and then put it back together stronger than before. Before we begin, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments, what would you do if helping someone got you accused of the worst thing imaginable? To understand how a father's simple act of compassion became a nightmare, we need to go back 12 hours, to a delayed flight, a lonely little girl, and the 4 words that started everything. The father sat in gate 47 with his daughter and a duffel bag held together with duct tape. It was 11:47 at night. Terminal 3 of Denver International Airport was nearly empty. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. A janitor pushed a mop across tiles that gleamed wet under the harsh white glow. Somewhere behind them, a departure board clicked and updated with another delay. The father wore a faded Broncos hoodie and work boots caked with warehouse dust. His name was Marcus Chen. He was 42 years old. His hands rested on his knees, palms down, fingers spread. He looked like a man who'd learned how to be still. Beside him on the floor sat his daughter. Her name was Lily. She was 7, small for her age, dark eyes that seemed older than the rest of her. A messy ponytail held together with a rubber band that had seen better days. She had a sketchbook open on her lap. She was drawing airplanes with colored pencils that were worn down to nubs. Marcus watched her draw. She'd been quiet since Phoenix. She'd been quiet through the funeral. Quiet through the reception at a cousin's house, where people kept asking if she was okay, and she kept nodding, even though no one really wanted the real answer. Her mother had been dead for 6 days. Lily barely remembered her mother. The woman had left when Lily was 1 year old. She'd sent birthday cards for the first 2 years. Then, nothing. Marcus remembered. But he'd learned not to think about it too much. A gate agent's voice crackled over the intercom. Flight 2847 to Seattle was delayed another hour. Mechanical issue. Passengers should remain in the gate area. Lily didn't look up from her drawing. Marcus leaned back in the plastic chair. It creaked under his weight. He closed his eyes for just a moment. He was tired. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. When he opened his eyes, he saw her. A little girl, maybe 5 years old, South Asian, wearing a velvet dress that was too fancy for a Tuesday night flight. She stood in the middle of the concourse about 30 feet away, frozen, clutching a stuffed elephant to her chest. Her face was streaked with tears. Marcus sat up straighter. The girl turned in a slow circle, looking for someone. Her small shoulders shook. She was trying not to cry louder, trying to be brave. A gate agent walked past her, didn't stop. A businessman in a suit rolled his carry-on right around her like she was furniture. The girl's panic was building. Marcus could see it in the way her fingers dug into the elephant's fabric, in the way her breath came faster. No one was stopping. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, an old instinct, the kind he thought he'd buried years ago. He stood. Lily looked up from her sketchbook. "Dad?" Marcus didn't answer. He was already moving. He crossed the terminal in long, steady strides. His boots made soft sounds on the polished floor. The girl's back was to him now. She was looking down Concourse B, toward the gates that stretched into the distance, each one identical, each one confusing to a child who'd lost her way. Marcus stopped a few feet behind her. He didn't want to startle her. "Hey," he said quietly. The girl spun around. Her eyes were wide, terrified. But then she looked at Marcus's face, and something in her expression changed. She walked straight to him. "Are you lost, too?" she asked. Her voice broke on the last word. Marcus knelt, slowly, until he was at her eye level. He looked at her the way he used to look through a camera lens. Really looked. Not just seeing a subject, but seeing a whole story. The stuffed elephant clutched tight. The velvet dress. The way her small hand kept reaching out like it expected to find someone who wasn't there. Something in Marcus cracked open. Something he'd buried 8 years ago in the ruins of a city most Americans couldn't find on a map. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I think maybe I am." The little girl blinked, surprised. "You are?" "I used to know exactly where I was going," Marcus told her. His voice was gentle, patient. "Then I lost someone very important to me, and I've been a little lost ever since." He glanced back toward Gate 47. Lily was standing now, watching them, her sketchbook forgotten on the floor. Marcus looked back at the girl. "But my daughter," he said, "she's teaching me that being lost isn't the scary part. The scary part is being lost and alone." The girl's tears slowed. She looked down at her elephant, then back at Marcus. "You lost someone too?" "I did." "Does it stop hurting?" Marcus's throat tightened. For a second, he couldn't speak. Then he swallowed and found his voice again. "No, sweetheart. But you learn to carry it. And it helps if you have someone to carry it with." He extended his hand, palm up, not grabbing, offering. "What's your name?" "Priya." "I'm Marcus. That's my daughter, Lily. We're going to help you find your family, okay?" Priya looked at his hand. Then she slipped her small fingers into his palm. Marcus stood. Priya's hand stayed in his. Lily walked over and stood on Marcus's other side. She looked at Priya with those serious eyes. "Hi," Lily said. "Hi," Priya whispered. "Do you know where you're supposed to be?" Marcus asked. Priya shook her head. "My nanny was taking me to my dad's plane, but I don't know where she went." Marcus nodded. He scanned the concourse. No one was running toward them. No one was calling out a child's name. "Okay," he said. "Let's go find someone who can help." They walked together toward a courtesy phone mounted on the wall near Gate 43. Marcus kept his pace slow. Priya's legs were short. She had to take 2 steps for every one of his. Lily walked beside them. She didn't say anything, but she reached into her pocket and pulled out a green-colored pencil. "You can use this if you want," Lily said to Priya. Priya looked at the pencil, then at Lily. A small smile appeared on her tear-stained face. "Thank you." Marcus picked up the courtesy phone. He dialed the airport operator, explained the situation. A lost child. No guardian in sight. They'd send someone from passenger services. While they waited, Lily sat cross-legged on the floor and opened her sketchbook to a blank page. Priya sat beside her. Lily handed her the green pencil. "You can draw something if you want," Lily said. Priya drew a flower, careful strokes, a stem, 5 petals. She added it to the corner of Lily's airplane sketch. Marcus stood above them, watching. His hands hung loose at his sides. For 15 minutes, it was quiet. Just 3 people taking care of each other in the fluorescent nowhere of a late-night airport terminal. Then Marcus heard footsteps. Fast, hard-soled shoes on tile. He turned. A man in a tailored suit was striding toward them, flanked by 2 airport police officers. The man's face was tight with fury, barely held in check. Behind them, a third figure, a woman in a Kapoor Industries uniform, the nanny. Her face was pale. The man in the suit locked eyes on Priya, then on Marcus, and the look that crossed his face made Marcus's jaw tighten. He'd seen that look before, in a dozen countries, in 100 faces, the look of someone who'd already decided what story they were seeing. The man stopped 3 feet away. "Step away from her," he snapped. "Now!" Marcus released Priya's hand and raised both palms. Slow, deliberate. "The way you move when you know someone's already decided you're dangerous." "She was lost," he said quietly. "I was helping her find her family." The man in the suit cut him off. "You were taking her." His voice sliced through the terminal, sharp, loud enough to carry. Travelers at nearby gates looked up from their phones. A woman with a rolling suitcase stopped mid-stride. The man stepped closer. He had a blonde buzz cut and a jaw that looked like it spent a lot of time clenched. His suit was charcoal gray, tailored, expensive, the kind that announced itself. "We have footage," the man said. He gestured toward a camera mounted on the ceiling. "You approached this child. You got down on your knees. You spoke to her. You took her hand. You walked away with her." Marcus kept his hands visible. "I called airport staff. They're on their way." "Airport police, detain this man." One of the officers stepped forward, young, maybe 25. His hand hovered near his belt. Lily's voice broke through. "Dad didn't do anything wrong?" The man in the suit turned. His eyes landed on Lily, then back on Marcus. His expression shifted. Something ugly crossed his face. "Dad," he said. The word dripped with contempt. "Sir, I'm going to need you to come with us. Priya, step over here, sweetheart." Priya didn't move. She looked between Marcus and the man in the suit. Her stuffed elephant was pressed against her chest. Her small face was confused. "He said he was lost, too," Priya said. "He was helping me." "Priya, now." The little girl's fingers tightened on the elephant. She took 1 step toward the man in the suit, then stopped. Looked back at Marcus. Marcus met her eyes. He nodded once. "It's okay." Priya walked to the man in the suit. He put a hand on her shoulder. possessive, protective. Like Marcus was something she needed protecting from. The airport officer closest to Marcus cleared his throat. "Sir, can I see some ID?" Marcus reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet. His movements were slow, controlled. He'd been in enough tense situations to know how fast things could go wrong. He handed over his driver's license and his warehouse employee badge. The badge had his photo, his name, the logo of a shipping company no one had ever heard of. The officer studied it, then looked at Marcus, then back at the badge. "Mr. Chen, why did you approach the child?" "She was alone. She was crying. No one else was stopping." "And you thought that was your responsibility?" Marcus's jaw tightened. He didn't answer. The man in the suit stepped forward. He pulled out his own phone, held it up so the officers could see. On the screen was a professional headshot, a logo, Kapoor Industries. Beneath it, Derek Vaughn, head of security. "I want this man detained until Mr. Kapoor's legal team arrives," Vaughn said. "This is a matter of child safety. The family will want to press charges." The older officer frowned. "Sir, we need to review the footage first. If his story checks out—" "His story?" Vaughn's voice went sharp. "Look at him. Look at the situation. Use your judgment." The words hung in the air. "Look at him." Marcus felt something settle in his chest. Cold. Familiar. He'd heard those words before, in different languages, in different countries, always with the same meaning. The older officer hesitated, then nodded. "Mr. Chen, we're going to need you to come with us." Lily stepped in front of Marcus. "He was helping," she said. Her voice was small but steady. "That's what he does. He helps people." Vaughn looked down at her. His expression was dismissive. "Sweetheart, your dad is in a lot of trouble. You should go sit down." "He's not in trouble. He didn't do anything." "Lily," Marcus said quietly, "it's okay." "It's not okay." Marcus knelt. He put his hands on Lily's shoulders, looked into her serious dark eyes. "I need you to wait here," he said. "Someone from the airport will come get you. They'll make sure you're safe." "I don't want to wait here. I want to go with you." "I know, but you can't right now." Lily's chin trembled. She didn't cry. She hadn't cried at her mother's funeral, hadn't cried on the plane, but her hands balled into fists, and Marcus could see her trying to hold it together. "It's not fair," she whispered. "I know." One of the officers touched Marcus's shoulder, not rough, but firm. "Sir, we need to go." Marcus stood. The officer gestured toward the concourse, toward a door marked Airport Security. Marcus walked. The two officers flanked him. Vaughn followed behind with Priya. Marcus looked back once. Lily stood alone in the middle of the gate area. Her sketchbook was on the floor beside her. Her hands hung at her sides. Her face was the kind of blank that only comes when you're trying very hard not to feel anything at all. The door closed between them. The security office was small, windowless. It smelled like stale coffee and cleaning solution. There was a metal table, 4 chairs, a camera in the corner with a blinking red light. They didn't cuff him, but they made him sit. One officer stood by the door. The other sat across from Marcus and started filling out paperwork. Vaughn leaned against the wall. He was texting. Fast. Angry thumbs on a screen. Marcus sat with his hands flat on the table. He focused on his breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth, the way he used to do in Aleppo when the shelling got close. The officer looked up from his paperwork. "Mr. Chen, can you walk me through what happened?" Marcus told the story. Simple. Direct. No extra words. Priya was alone. He approached her, asked if she needed help. called airport staff, waited with her until someone came. The officer wrote it down, then looked at Vaughn. "We'll need to pull the security footage." Vaughn nodded. "Do it. You'll see exactly what I said." 20 minutes later, the footage played on a small monitor mounted to the wall. Grainy, black and white. No sound. It showed Marcus standing, walking toward Priya, kneeling, speaking to her, Priya nodding, taking his hand. The three of them walking to the courtesy phone, sitting on the floor, drawing. The older officer watched, then turned to Marcus. "This matches your statement." Vaughn pushed off the wall. "It shows him approaching a child, taking her hand, leading her away from where she was found. That's exactly what I said. It also shows him calling for help and waiting with her. It shows a grown man initiating contact with a vulnerable child without authorization." The officer's face tightened. He looked at Marcus, then at Vaughn, then back at the screen. Marcus could see the calculation happening, the weighing. A warehouse worker in a hoodie versus a security executive in a tailored suit. A nobody versus someone with a business card and a billionaire's phone number. The officer closed his laptop. "Mr. Chen, you're free to go, but we'll need your contact information. The Kapoor family may want to follow up." Vaughn's face went red. "That's it? You're letting him walk?" "Sir, the footage corroborates his story. There's no evidence of criminal intent." "No evidence?" He approached a 5-year-old girl. A 5-year-old girl who was lost and alone, and he helped her. Vaughn's jaw worked, his hands clenched. For a moment, Marcus thought he might actually swing. But then Vaughn pulled out his phone again, started typing. "You'll be hearing from our lawyers," Vaughn said. He didn't look at Marcus. He looked at the officers. "All of you." He turned and walked out. The door slammed behind him. The older officer let out a long breath. "Mr. Chen, you're free to go. Your daughter is with a victim services coordinator. Gate 47. Marcus stood. His legs were stiff. He'd been sitting for 4 hours. "Thank you," he said. The officer nodded, but his face was troubled, like he knew something Marcus didn't. Like letting Marcus go was the right call, but also the wrong one. Marcus walked out of the security office, down the concourse, back to Gate 47. Lily was sitting in a plastic chair. A woman in an airport uniform sat beside her. When Lily saw Marcus, she stood, ran to him, wrapped her arms around his waist, and held on like she thought someone might try to take him again. Marcus put his hand on top of her head. "I'm okay," he said quietly. Lily didn't let go. The victim services coordinator stood. She gave Marcus a sympathetic look, then handed him a business card. "If you need anything," she said, "counseling, legal advice, anything." Marcus took the card, nodded. By the time they boarded the 6 a.m. flight to Seattle, Marcus's phone had 43 missed calls and a text from his warehouse supervisor telling him not to come in on Monday. The video started spreading before Marcus even got home. Someone in the terminal had filmed it. A traveler with a phone and a judgment and 30 seconds of footage that told a story that wasn't true. The clip showed Marcus kneeling, Priya's small face looking up at him, his hand extended, her hand taking it. The three of them walking away from the spot where Priya had been standing. The caption read, "Man approaches crying child at airport." No context, no audio, just the visual and the implication. By the time Marcus and Lily landed in Seattle 6 hours later, the video had 200,000 views. Marcus didn't know yet. His phone was off. He'd turned it off on the plane because Lily had fallen asleep with her head on his shoulder, and he didn't want anything to wake her. They walked through SeaTac baggage claim in silence. Early morning. Gray light filtering through the terminal windows. The smell of coffee and jet fuel. Marcus's phone buzzed the moment he turned it back on. 43 missed calls. 62 text messages. The supervisor's voice was clipped. Professional. The tone people use when they're delivering bad news and don't want to be blamed for it. Marcus, it's Bill. I need you to call me back as soon as you get this. Don't come in Monday. We need to talk first. The voicemail ended. Marcus lowered the phone. His hand was steady, but his jaw had gone tight. What's wrong? Lily asked. Nothing, sweetheart. Let's get our bag. They waited by Carousel 4. The conveyor belt rattled and clanked. Suitcases tumbled down the chute. Marcus watched for his duffel bag and tried not to think about the voicemail. A woman stood a few feet away, mid-40s, expensive coat. She was staring at Marcus, not the quick glance of recognition, the longer stare of someone trying to place a face. Then her eyes widened. She pulled out her phone, started typing. Marcus turned away, found his bag, grabbed Lily's hand. They took the light rail home. 20-minute ride to their neighborhood. Marcus stared out the window at the gray Seattle skyline and didn't look at his phone. Their apartment was on the 3rd floor of a building that had needed paint for 5 years. 1 bedroom, a kitchen the size of a closet, second-hand furniture that didn't match. Lily's drawings taped to the fridge with magnets shaped like strawberries. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. Marcus unlocked the door. Lily went straight to her room. He heard her drop her backpack, heard the squeak of her bed as she sat down. Marcus stood in the kitchen. He pulled out his phone, opened his text messages. Most were from people he didn't know, strangers who'd somehow gotten his number. The messages ranged from concerned to angry to threatening. One message stood out, from a number with a 303 area code. Denver. It was a photo, a legal document, a letterhead that read Kapoor Industries Legal Department. The text beneath the photo, "This is being delivered to your address today. You'll want to get a lawyer." Marcus zoomed in on the document. His eyes scanned the text. Words jumped out. Civil suit. Emotional distress. Endangerment of a minor. Reckless behavior. They were suing him. Marcus set the phone down on the counter. He gripped the edge of the sink, stared at the dishes from 3 days ago that he hadn't washed before they left for Phoenix. The apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic outside. He couldn't fight this. He had no money, no lawyer, no credibility. He was a warehouse worker who'd been put on leave. A single father whose face was now attached to a viral video that made him look like exactly the kind of person parents warned their children about. He'd done the right thing. He'd helped a lost child. And now his life was unraveling. Marcus heard footsteps behind him. Small, hesitant. Lily stood in the kitchen doorway. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying. "Dad!" Her voice was small. "Are you in trouble because of me?" Marcus turned, looked at his daughter, 7 years old. Too young to understand what was happening, but old enough to know something was wrong. He wanted to tell her the truth, that yes, he was in trouble, that helping Priya had cost him his job and might cost him everything else, that the world had looked at a man in a warehouse uniform and decided he was guilty before he'd even had a chance to speak. But he couldn't say that. Not to her. "No, sweetheart," Marcus said. His voice was steady, warm. The lie came easy, because he'd been lying to protect her for years. "I'm not." Lily studied his face. She didn't believe him. Marcus could see it in her eyes, but she didn't push. "Okay," she said quietly. She turned and walked back to her room. The door clicked shut. Marcus stood alone in the kitchen. The letter from Kapoor's legal team glowed on his phone screen. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, a bus hissed to a stop. He looked at the closet in the hallway. The one he never opened. The one with the padlock he'd installed himself. Inside that closet was a box. And inside that box was a camera he hadn't touched in 8 years. Marcus walked to the closet. His hand hovered over the lock. Then he pulled away. Not yet. He went to the couch, sat down, stared at the wall. Monday morning, Lily went to school. Marcus drove her in his truck, a 2003 Toyota with rust on the wheel wells and a passenger door that only opened from the outside. He parked in the drop-off lane. Lily unbuckled her seatbelt but didn't get out. "Dad? Yeah? Is someone going to take you away?" Marcus's chest tightened. "No one's taking me anywhere." "Promise?" He couldn't promise, but he said it anyway. "I promise." Lily nodded. She opened the door and climbed out. Marcus watched her walk toward the school entrance. Small backpack, messy ponytail, head down. Other parents were dropping off their kids. A woman Marcus recognized from back-to-school night stood near the entrance. She saw Lily. Then she saw Marcus. She pulled her daughter closer and walked quickly in the opposite direction. Marcus sat in his truck and watched until Lily disappeared through the double doors. That evening, another email arrived. Subject line, "Statement from Kapoor Industries legal team." Marcus didn't open it. He knew what it would say. Instead, he made dinner. Mac and cheese from a box. Lily ate 3 bites and pushed the rest around her plate. After she went to bed, Marcus sat on the couch with his laptop. He opened a browser, typed his own name into the search bar. The results loaded. The video was everywhere. News sites, social media. Comment sections full of people who'd decided who he was based on 30 seconds of footage. Some comments defended him. Most didn't. Marcus scrolled until he found a thread that made his hands stop moving. Someone had posted a screenshot. His warehouse employee badge. His full name. His address. The comment beneath it. "Someone should check if this guy has a record." Marcus closed the laptop. He sat in the dark. The apartment was silent except for the ticking of a clock on the wall and the faint sound of Lily breathing in the next room. He'd survived war zones. He'd photographed death. He'd stood in the ruins of cities and documented suffering that most people would never see. But this was different. This was his daughter's life. His life. Everything he'd built in 8 years of silence. And it was crumbling, because he'd knelt down beside a scared little girl and told her the truth. That he was lost, too. 3 days passed. The video kept spreading. Rachel Kim sat in her apartment in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood, scrolling through social media on her laptop. Rain tapped against the window. Her coffee had gone cold an hour ago. She was a journalist, 31 years old. She worked for an online news outlet that paid barely enough to cover rent. Most of her stories got a few hundred views, sometimes a few thousand. She'd been scrolling for 20 minutes when she saw it. The airport video. A man kneeling beside a crying child. 30 seconds of footage that had been shared 60,000 times in the last 2 days. Rachel clicked play. The video was grainy, shot from a distance. No sound, just the visual. A man in a hoodie approaching a little girl, kneeling, speaking to her, taking her hand, walking away. The caption, "Man approaches crying child at airport." Rachel read the comments. Most were angry, some were worried. A few tried to defend the man, but the overwhelming narrative was clear. This looked bad. Rachel replayed the video. Something bothered her. The way the man moved. Slow. Careful. His body language wasn't aggressive. He knelt to the child's level. He extended his hand palm up, not grabbing, and the child took it. Rachel leaned closer to the screen. The video quality was poor, but she could just make out audio waveforms at the bottom of the player. There was sound, just buried under compression artifacts. She downloaded the file, opened it in audio editing software, isolated the vocal frequencies, ran it through enhancement filters. The background noise dropped away. Voices emerged. A child's voice first. Hi, scared. Are you lost, too? Then a man's voice, quiet, gentle. The words were broken up, but Rachel could make them out if she focused. I used to know exactly where I was going. Then I lost someone very important to me, and I've been a little lost ever since. Rachel stopped the playback, rewound, listened again. The man wasn't threatening the child. He was comforting her. Rachel exported the cleaned audio file, uploaded it to her social media, added a new caption. Listen to what he actually said. She hit post and closed her laptop. By morning, her post had been shared 12,000 times. The narrative was shifting. People were asking questions. Who was this man? What had he lost? Why did he sound so sad when he talked to a stranger's child? Rachel opened her laptop again. The comment section had exploded overnight. Some people were defending the man now. Others were doubling down on suspicion. The debate was fierce, but one comment caught her attention. Someone had run a reverse image search on a screenshot from the video. Found a name through public records tied to the airport incident report. Marcus Chen. Rachel typed the name into a search engine. Nothing came up. No social media profiles. No LinkedIn. No Facebook. No digital footprint at all. That was strange. In 2025, almost everyone had some kind of online presence, especially someone in their 40s. Rachel dug deeper. She searched public records. Found a few hits. An address in Seattle. A warehouse employment record starting in 2017. But nothing before 2017. It was like Marcus Chen hadn't existed before 8 years ago. Rachel leaned back in her chair. Rain continued to drum against the window. She'd been a journalist long enough to know what a gap like that meant. Either the man was hiding from something, or he was hiding something. She kept searching. An hour later, she found it. A Pulitzer Prize archive from 2016. She'd been searching for photojournalists named Chen. The list was long, but one entry made her stop scrolling. Marcus Chen, chief conflict photographer for Reuters. Winner of the 2016 Pulitzer Prize for feature photography. The winning photograph was titled Aleppo Father. Rachel clicked the link. The image loaded slowly. First the top half, then the rest. A man in the rubble of a destroyed building, holding his daughter. The girl was maybe 4 years old. Her eyes were closed. Her body was limp. The father's face was turned toward the camera, his mouth open in a scream that the photograph could never capture but somehow still conveyed. The image was devastating. Rachel read the caption, February 2017, Aleppo, Syrian civil war, airstrike on a civilian neighborhood. She scrolled down, found a smaller photograph, the photographer's headshot, professional, clean. A man in his mid-30s with dark hair and serious eyes and a scar above his left eyebrow. Rachel enlarged the image, studied the face. Then she pulled up the airport video again. Screenshot the blurry image of the man in the hoodie. Compared the two. The scar was there, faded, but visible. It was him. The Pulitzer Prize-winning photojournalist who documented war zones was now a warehouse worker being accused of approaching a child in an airport. Rachel's hands hovered over her keyboard. Her pulse quickened. This was a story. A real one. The kind that could change a narrative. The kind that could reach millions. She opened a new document and started typing. Marcus Chen sat on the floor of his apartment, his back against the couch, his phone on the coffee table in front of him. It had been 3 days since Denver. 3 days since Lily had asked if he was in trouble because of her. 3 days since he'd lied and said no. The lie was getting harder to maintain. His phone buzzed. Another email. He didn't check it. He knew what it would say. Another interview request. Another reporter wanting to know his side of the story. He'd deleted 43 emails in the last 2 days. The latest one was from someone named Rachel Kim. Subject line, "I know who you are." Marcus had stared at that subject line for 10 minutes before deleting it without opening. He didn't want to know what the journalist knew. Didn't want to see his past dragged into the present. Didn't want Lily to find out that her father had once been someone important and had walked away from it all. Lily was in her room, doing homework, or pretending to. She'd been quiet since they got home from Denver. Quieter than usual. Marcus stood, walked to the window, looked out at the Seattle skyline. Gray sky. Gray buildings. Rain that hadn't stopped in 3 days. His phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't an email. It was a text, from a number he didn't recognize. The message said, "The article publishes tomorrow. I thought you should know." Marcus picked up the phone, stared at the message. His thumb hovered over the reply button. Then he set the phone down and walked to the hallway. To the closet with the padlock he'd installed himself. He hadn't opened that closet in 3 years, but he opened it now. The storage unit sat in an industrial park south of Seattle. A gray building with roll-up doors numbered in fading paint. The smell of motor oil and concrete dust hung in the air. Marcus parked his truck in front of Unit 47, 10:30 at night. The parking lot was empty, except for a single streetlight that flickered every few seconds. He sat in the driver's seat, hands on the steering wheel, engine ticking as it cooled. He'd been paying $90 a month for this unit since February 2017. 8 years, nearly $8,000 to keep a past locked away that he'd sworn he'd never open again. But Rachel Kim's text message had changed that. "The article publishes tomorrow. I thought you should know." Marcus climbed out of the truck. The night air was cold. He could see his breath. He walked to the unit door and pulled out a key ring. Found the small brass key he hadn't touched in 3 years. The padlock opened with a click. Marcus grabbed the door handle, rolled it up. The metal rattled and groaned. Inside, the unit was dark. Marcus found the light switch. A single bulb buzzed to life overhead. The space was 10 feet by 10 feet. Filing cabinets lined one wall. Cardboard boxes stacked 3 high along another. A shelf unit held hard drives in labeled cases. Framed photographs wrapped in bubble wrap and plastic leaned against the back corner. Marcus stepped inside. The air smelled stale. Dust covered everything. He walked to the filing cabinets, pulled open the top drawer. Inside were binders, black covers, white labels. Syria, 2015. Yemen, 2015. South Sudan, 2016. Marcus pulled out the binder labeled Aleppo, 2017. He sat down on the concrete floor, his back against a filing cabinet, the binder heavy in his lap. He opened it. The first page was a contact sheet. Dozens of small images printed on a single page. Black and white, each one numbered, each one a moment frozen in time. Marcus's eyes scanned the images. He'd seen them before, hundreds of times, but he'd spent 8 years trying to forget them. A woman carrying a child through rubble. A man digging through the wreckage of what used to be a home. An old woman sitting in the street, her hands covering her face. Marcus turned the page. More contact sheets. More moments. More suffering. He kept turning pages until he found it. The photograph. It took up a full page. High resolution. Every detail sharp. A man knelt in the ruins of a building. The walls had collapsed. Rebar jutted from broken concrete. Smoke hung in the air, catching the late afternoon light. The man held a girl in his arms, maybe 4 years old. Her eyes were closed. Her body was limp. The man's face was turned toward the camera, his mouth open, screaming. Marcus stared at the image. His hands started to shake. He remembered the moment. February 16th, 2017, 3:47 in the afternoon. He'd been embedded with a rescue crew in eastern Aleppo. They'd been responding to reports of an airstrike on a residential block. Marcus had arrived 6 minutes after the bombs fell. The building was still smoking. People were screaming. Dust filled the air so thick he could taste it. He'd raised his camera, started shooting. It's what he did. It's what he'd always done. Document. Witness. Show the world what was happening. Then he'd seen the man, pulling his daughter from the rubble, holding her, realizing she was gone. Marcus had taken the shot, his camera shutter clicking 3 times. Click. The third frame was the one that won the Pulitzer. Marcus closed the binder, set it on the floor beside him. He pressed his palms against his eyes. He remembered the father's scream. The sound had cut through everything. Through the chaos. Through the smoke. Through the walls Marcus had built to keep himself separate from what he was documenting. He remembered going back to his hotel that night, downloading the images, selecting the best frame, sending it to his editor. He remembered the email response. This is incredible. This will run front page. The photograph went viral within hours. It appeared on the covers of newspapers around the world. It trended on social media. People shared it, commented on it, said it was powerful, said it showed the true cost of war, said it made them feel something. The world grieved for 48 hours, then moved on. But Marcus never did. He'd gone back to that neighborhood 3 days later, found the father, gave him a print of the photograph. The man had looked at it, then at Marcus. His eyes were hollow. "You took this," the father had said. "Yes." "My daughter is dead, and you took a picture." Marcus hadn't known what to say. He'd stood there holding his camera, the thing that had defined his entire adult life, the tool he'd used to tell stories, to bear witness, to make the world pay attention. And in that moment, it felt like a weapon. "I'm sorry," Marcus had said. The father had handed the photograph back. "I don't want this. I want my daughter." Marcus had flown home 2 days later. He'd handed in his press credentials, told his editor he was done, packed his cameras in boxes, and put them in storage. He'd sworn he would never again witness a child suffering without the power to stop it. Now he sat on the floor of a storage unit, surrounded by the evidence of everything he used to be. A Pulitzer Prize winner, a celebrated photojournalist, a man who'd seen the worst of humanity and documented it so the world couldn't look away. But what good had it done? The wars kept happening. The children kept dying. The world kept looking away the moment the next news cycle started. Marcus had walked away because he couldn't save anyone with a camera. He could only watch them suffer, frame it, make it beautiful in its horror, win awards for capturing someone else's worst moment. He picked up the binder again, opened it to the photograph, stared at the father's face. Then Lily's voice echoed in his memory. From the airport. 7 years old. Serious eyes. Dad didn't do anything wrong. Marcus closed the binder. Stood. His legs were stiff from sitting on the cold concrete. He looked around the storage unit, at the filing cabinets full of photographs, at the hard drives full of images, at the wrapped frames leaning against the wall. This was his past. The thing he'd been running from for 8 years. But maybe Rachel Kim was right to publish her article. Maybe the world needed to know that the warehouse worker in the viral video wasn't just some nobody. Maybe the truth mattered. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe it would just make things worse. Turn him into a story. A headline. Another viral moment for people to consume and forget. Marcus turned off the light, rolled the door back down, locked it. He sat in his truck, pulled out his phone. Rachel Kim's message was still there. His thumb hovered over the reply button. Then he typed, "What time does it publish?" The response came 30 seconds later. 6 a.m. "I'm sorry, but people need to know who you really are." Marcus stared at the message. Then he typed one more question. "Why?" The reply took longer this time. A full minute. Because the story they're telling about you isn't true. And the truth matters, even when it's hard. Marcus put his phone away, started the truck, drove home through empty streets while Seattle slept, and somewhere a journalist prepared to tell the world about a man who'd spent 8 years trying to disappear. The article published at 6 a.m. Marcus woke to the sound of his phone vibrating on the nightstand. He'd left it on by accident. Now it wouldn't stop. Call after call. Text after text. Email notifications piling up so fast the phone couldn't keep up. Marcus sat up. The apartment was still dark. Through the window, he could see the first gray light of dawn touching the Seattle skyline. He picked up the phone. 47 missed calls. 93 text messages. His inbox was full. He opened Rachel Kim's article. The headline, "The Man in the Airport. Video is a Pulitzer Prize-winning photojournalist who documented war zones and walked away." Below it, a photograph. The Aleppo father. The one that had won the Pulitzer. The image that had broken Marcus 8 years ago. Marcus scrolled through the article. Rachel had done her research. She'd tracked down his old editor at Reuters, former colleagues, people he hadn't spoken to in nearly a decade. They all said the same thing. Marcus Chen was one of the best. His work was fearless. His images changed how people saw war. And then he vanished. The article included a dozen photographs from Marcus's archive, images he'd taken in Syria, Yemen, South Sudan, children in bombed-out buildings, families fleeing violence, moments of suffering frozen in black and white. Rachel's writing was careful, respectful. She didn't sensationalize. She let the photographs speak. And she asked the question everyone would be asking by noon. Why did a Pulitzer Prize-winning photojournalist spend 8 years loading trucks in a warehouse? Marcus set the phone down. His hands were steady, but his chest felt tight. Lily appeared in his doorway, still in her pajamas, hair messy from sleep. "Dad, why is your phone making so much noise?" Marcus looked at his daughter. 7 years old, the only thing in his life that mattered. "Someone wrote a story about me," he said. "What kind of story?" "A true one." Lily walked into the room, climbed onto the bed beside him. She looked at his phone, saw the photograph of the Aleppo father. "Is that your picture?" she asked. "Yeah." "It's sad." Marcus's throat tightened. "Yeah, it is." Lily studied the image for another moment. Then she looked up at Marcus. "Is that why you're always so quiet?" Marcus didn't know how to answer that, so he just nodded. Lily leaned against him, her small shoulder against his arm. "I don't think you're in trouble anymore," she said. By 10 a.m., the article had been shared 200,000 times. Major news outlets picked it up. CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post. They all ran versions of the same story. Warehouse worker revealed as war photographer. The man in the viral airport video has a past. The narrative flipped overnight. Comment sections that had called Marcus a predator now called him a hero. People who'd shared the original video with outrage now shared Rachel's article with admiration. Marcus didn't read the comments. He'd learned a long time ago that what people said online had nothing to do with truth. His phone kept ringing. Interview requests, morning shows, podcasts, documentary producers. Marcus ignored all of them. Then, at 2 in the afternoon, a number he didn't recognize called. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Hello?" "Mr. Chen, this is Rajesh Kapoor." Marcus went still. Priya's father. The billionaire whose security chief had accused Marcus in the airport. The man whose legal team had threatened to sue. "I've seen the article," Kapoor said. His voice was different than Marcus expected. Quieter, almost uncertain. "I've seen your photographs." Marcus said nothing. "I owe you an apology," Kapoor continued. "Not just for Vaughn, for myself, for the legal threats, for assuming that a man in a warehouse uniform couldn't be good." The last word came out strained, like it cost something to say. "I want to meet," Kapoor said, "if you'll allow it." "Why?" "Because my daughter hasn't stopped talking about you. Because you were right about what you said in that airport. She was alone for 20 minutes before you found her, and I need to ask myself why." Marcus looked out the window. Rain had started to fall. Gray clouds hung low over the city. "I'll meet you," Marcus said, "on one condition." "Anything." "Priya comes too." There was a long pause. "Yes," Kapoor said finally. "Of course." They met 2 days later at a coffee shop in downtown Denver. Kapoor flew in on a private jet. Marcus took a commercial flight and paid for it with a credit card he'd have to work 2 months to clear. The coffee shop was upscale. Exposed brick walls. Espresso machines that cost more than Marcus's truck. The kind of place where a latte was $7 and came with foam art. Marcus arrived first. He sat at a table near the window. Ordered black coffee. Waited. Kapoor arrived 15 minutes later. Tailored suit. Expensive watch. He looked exactly like what he was. A man with power. But Priya looked the same. 5 years old. Bright eyes. Wearing a dress that was too fancy for a coffee shop. She saw Marcus, and her face lit up. She ran to him. Wrapped her small arms around his neck. Marcus knelt and hugged her back. "I knew it was you," Priya said. "I told my dad. I said that man was nice. I said he helped me." Marcus looked up at Kapoor. The man was watching them. His face was unreadable. Priya pulled back. She was holding her stuffed elephant, the same one from the airport. "Ganesh missed you," she said. Marcus smiled. "I missed him too." They sat down. Kapoor ordered coffee he didn't drink. Priya got hot chocolate. Marcus let her tell him about school, about her piano lessons, about the new book her teacher was reading to the class. Kapoor watched his daughter talk. He didn't interrupt, didn't check his phone. He just watched, like he was seeing her for the first time. After Priya finished her hot chocolate, she asked if she could look at the pastries in the display case. Kapoor nodded. She skipped away. The two men sat in silence for a moment. "I don't know her," Kapoor said quietly. Marcus looked at him. "My daughter. I don't know her. I know her schedule. I know her tutors. I know which schools she's been accepted to." But I don't know what she's afraid of, what makes her laugh, what she thinks about when she's alone. Kapoor's hands tightened around his coffee cup. That night in Denver, when Vaughn called and said Priya was missing, I was in a board meeting, negotiating a merger worth $300 million. And my first thought was how much this was going to cost me. Not in money, in time. He looked up at Marcus. You were right. My daughter was alone for 20 minutes, and I didn't even know she was gone. Marcus didn't respond. This wasn't his story to fix. I'm sorry, Kapoor said, for everything. For Vaughn, for the lawyers, for thinking the worst of you. Marcus nodded. I know. Is there anything I can do? Marcus thought about that, about the warehouse job he'd lost, about the legal fees he didn't have to pay anymore because Kapoor's team had dropped everything the moment the article went viral, about Lily at home doing her homework at a kitchen table held together with duct tape. But that wasn't what mattered. Your daughter was alone, Marcus said. Make sure she's not alone anymore. Kapoor's jaw tightened. He nodded. Priya came back with a cookie, chocolate chip. She broke it in half and offered Marcus a piece. He took it. Thank you. She smiled. They talked for another 20 minutes. Then Kapoor's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned. I have to go, he said. But I meant what I said. If there's anything you need. Marcus stood. There's one thing. Kapoor waited. Your security chief, Vaughn. He lost his job because of this. Yes, the firm terminated him. I don't want that. Kapoor's eyebrows raised. He accused you of... I know what he did, but he was trying to protect your daughter. He made the wrong call. That doesn't mean his career should end. Kapoor studied Marcus for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, typed something, put it away. I'll make a call, he said. Marcus nodded. Priya hugged Marcus one more time before they left, whispered in his ear. Are you still lost? Marcus knelt down, looked into her eyes. A little bit less than I was, he said. She smiled. Then she and her father were gone. Marcus sat back down, finished his coffee, watched the rain streak down the window. His phone buzzed. A text from Rachel Kim. Thank you for not hating me for the article. Marcus typed back, I don't hate you. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Good. Because there's something you need to know. What? Vaughn leaked emails, internal communications from Kapoor's legal team. They're all over the news. It's bad. Marcus's stomach dropped. How bad? Witness intimidation, abuse of power. The district attorney is opening an investigation. They want you to testify. Marcus stared at the message. Rain hammered against the window. The coffee shop was warm, but he felt cold. Another text came through. You don't have to. But if you do, this could change everything. Marcus typed one word. When? 2 weeks. I'll send you the details. Marcus put his phone away, stood, walked out into the rain. He'd spent 8 years trying to disappear, trying to be no one, trying to forget that he'd once been a man who stood in front of the world's worst moments and made people look. But maybe Rachel was right. Maybe the truth mattered, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood outside the King County Courthouse in downtown Seattle. The building was granite and glass, cold, official, the kind of place that made decisions about people's lives in rooms with fluorescent lights and polished wood. Lily stood beside him. She wore her good dress, the navy blue one they'd bought for her mother's funeral. She held Marcus's hand. Are you nervous? She asked. A little. You shouldn't be. You're going to tell the truth. Marcus looked down at his daughter, 7 years old. old enough to understand what was happening, but young enough to believe the truth mattered more than anything else. "What if the truth doesn't help?" Marcus said. Lily squeezed his hand. "It will." They walked inside. The deposition room was on the third floor. Small. A long table, chairs, a camera mounted on a tripod in the corner. A court reporter sat at the end of the table with a stenography machine. Two attorneys sat across from where Marcus would sit. The district attorney. A woman in her 50s with gray hair and reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. Her assistant. A younger man with a laptop. Rachel Kim sat in a chair against the wall. She'd asked if she could attend. Marcus had said yes. The district attorney stood when Marcus entered, extended her hand. "Mr. Chen, thank you for coming. I'm Margaret Lawson. This is my assistant, David Park." Marcus shook her hand. "Thank you for seeing me. Please, sit." Marcus sat. Lily took a chair next to Rachel against the wall. The district attorney opened a folder. Inside were photographs, emails, documents, the evidence Vaughn had leaked, internal communications from Kapoor's legal team, instructions to make an example of Marcus, to pressure law enforcement, to protect the family's reputation at any cost. "Mr. Chen, you understand this is a voluntary deposition. You're not under oath, but anything you say can be used in our investigation." "I understand." "Good. Let's begin." The camera's red light blinked on. The questions started simple. Name, address, occupation. Then they moved to the night in Denver. What time? Which gate? What did Marcus see? Marcus answered each question the same way he'd lived the last 8 years. Quietly. Precisely. No wasted words. "Tell me about the child," Lawson said. "Priya Kapoor. What was your first impression?" "She was scared. She was alone. No one was helping her." "And you decided to approach her?" "Yes." "Why?" Marcus paused. He could feel Lily watching him from across the room. "Because that's what you do when you see someone who needs help." Lawson made a note. "You have a daughter." "Yes." "Was that part of your decision? Seeing a child alone?" Marcus thought about that. About all the children he'd photographed in war zones. All the suffering he'd documented and done nothing to stop except point a camera. "Yes," he said. "Mr. Chen, I want to ask you about something you said in the airport. Something that was captured on video." Lawson pulled out a transcript. "You told Priya Kapoor that you were lost, that you'd lost someone important. Can you explain what you meant?" Marcus's hands rested on the table. Flat. Still. "I used to be a photojournalist. I covered conflicts, wars. I saw a lot of suffering, children especially." "And that's what you meant when you said you'd lost someone?" "No." Lawson waited. 8 years ago, I photographed a father in Aleppo. His daughter had been killed in an airstrike. He was holding her body. I took the picture. It won a Pulitzer Prize. Marcus's voice didn't change, didn't crack. He said it the way he'd say anything else. 3 days later, I found the father. I gave him a print of the photograph. He looked at it. Then he said his daughter was dead, and all I'd done was take a picture. The room was quiet, except for the soft clicking of the court reporter's machine. That's when I realized I'd been spending my career witnessing suffering without the power to stop it. I could make people look. I could win awards. But I couldn't save anyone. So I came home. I quit. I swore I'd never document suffering again without the ability to help. And that's why you approached Priya Kapoor that night." "Yes." Lawson looked at her notes. "Mr. Chen, after the airport incident, you received a letter from Kapoor Industries' legal team. Is that correct? Yes. What did that letter say? That they were considering a civil suit. Emotional distress. Endangerment. They wanted me to know I'd made a mistake. How did that make you feel? Marcus looked at Lily. She was sitting very still, her hands folded in her lap, like I was being punished for helping. Lawson nodded. She pulled out another document. We've obtained internal emails from the Kapoor legal team, communications with their security contractor, with local law enforcement. They contain language like make an example, apply pressure, protect the family narrative. Did you know about any of this? No, not until the emails leaked. Mr. Chen, why are you here today? You could have declined this deposition. The investigation would have proceeded without your testimony. Marcus thought about the question, about why he'd said yes when Rachel texted him, about why he'd walked into this courthouse instead of staying quiet like he'd been quiet for 8 years. He looked at the district attorney. Because I was lost, he said. I spent 8 years hiding from the world because I couldn't save one child in Aleppo. But that night in the airport, I could save one child in Denver. And when they tried to destroy me for it, I realized something. What's that? The truth matters. Even when it's hard. Even when it costs you everything. Because if good people stay quiet when they're accused of being bad, then the people who do bad things win. Lawson set down her pen. She looked at Marcus for a long moment. Thank you, Mr. Chen. That's all I need. The camera's red light went off. Marcus stood, shook hands, walked out of the room with Lily. They didn't speak until they were outside. The Seattle sky was gray. Rain threatened but hadn't started yet. Dad? Lily said. Yeah? I'm proud of you. Marcus knelt down, looked at his daughter. I'm proud of you too, sweetheart. They walked to the parking garage, got in the truck. Marcus's phone buzzed as he started the engine. A text from Rachel Kim. You did good in there. Another message came through, from a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Chen, this is Margaret Lawson. What you said today mattered. I wanted you to know that. We'll be moving forward with charges. Marcus put the phone away. Drove home through Seattle traffic. 3 days later, the deposition footage leaked. It wasn't supposed to. Court depositions were supposed to be sealed until the investigation concluded. But someone with access to the file uploaded it, posted it on social media with a simple caption. Listen to this man. The video went viral within hours. By the next morning, it had been viewed 12 million times. News outlets picked it up, played clips on morning shows. Marcus's words spread across the internet. The warehouse worker who turned out to be a Pulitzer Prize winner. The father who helped a lost child and got accused of the worst. The man who testified that truth matters even when it costs everything. People shared the video, commented on it. Some said Marcus was a hero. Others said he was just a decent person doing what anyone should do. But everyone agreed on one thing. He shouldn't have been punished for helping. Marcus's phone rang at 9 a.m., unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Then he did. Mr. Chen, this is the University of Washington Department of Communications. We'd like to discuss a teaching opportunity. Another call came an hour later. A publisher. They wanted to do a book. Marcus's photographs, his story, the journey from war zones to warehouse to wherever he went next. Then another, an art gallery. They wanted to display his archive, a traveling exhibition. Lost and Found, they wanted to call it. Marcus sat at his kitchen table. Lily was at school. The apartment was quiet except for the sound of traffic outside and his phone buzzing every few minutes with calls he wasn't answering. He looked at the locked closet in the hallway. the one where he used to keep his cameras before he put them in storage. Then he looked at the fridge. At Lily's drawings held up with strawberry magnets. His phone buzzed again. This time, he answered. 6 months later, Marcus stood in front of a university lecture hall. 73 students sat in tiered rows, laptops open, phones silent. The University of Washington Department of Communications. Introduction to Photojournalism. Guest lecture. Marcus wore jeans and a button-down shirt. No tie. His hands rested on the podium. Behind him, projected on a screen the size of a garage door, was one of his photographs. A woman in Yemen carrying water through rubble. This was taken in Sana'a, Marcus said. 2016. The water treatment plant had been destroyed. People were walking 3 miles each way to the nearest well. He clicked to the next image. A child in Syria sitting in a doorway. Dust in her hair. Eyes watching something off camera. This was Aleppo, before the photograph you've probably seen. The one that won the prize. The students were quiet, attentive. Marcus could feel them watching him, trying to reconcile the man at the podium with the images on the screen. I spent 5 years documenting conflict, Marcus said. I believed bearing witness mattered, that if I could show the world what was happening, people would care enough to stop it. He paused, advanced to the next slide. The Aleppo father. The photograph that had changed everything. This is the image that ended my career, Marcus said. A father holding his daughter after an airstrike. She was 4 years old. I took this picture 3 minutes after she died. The lecture hall was absolutely still. The image went viral, won awards, appeared on the covers of newspapers in 43 countries. People said it was powerful, important. They said it showed the true cost of war. Marcus looked at the photograph. He'd seen it thousands of times, but it still made his chest tight. 3 days later, I found the father. Gave him a print. He looked at it. Then he said his daughter was dead, and all I'd done was take a picture. A student in the front row shifted in her seat. Marcus could see the question forming on her face. Why are you telling us this? I came home, Marcus said. Quit. Put my cameras in storage. Spent 8 years loading trucks in a warehouse because I couldn't figure out how to help people with a lens. He clicked to the next slide. Blank. Just white. Then, one night in an airport, I had a choice. I could walk past a scared child, or I could help her. And for the first time in 8 years, I chose to help instead of document. Marcus turned off the projector. The lights came up. He looked at the students. That's what I'm here to talk about today. Not how to take a good photograph, not how to win awards, but how to live with what you witness, how to carry it, and how to know when bearing witness isn't enough. For the next 90 minutes, Marcus talked about ethics, about the weight of the lens, about the responsibility photographers have to their subjects, about the difference between documenting suffering and exploiting it. The students asked questions. Good ones? Hard ones? Do you regret taking the Aleppo photograph? One student asked. Marcus thought about that. No. That father's story deserved to be told. His daughter deserved to be remembered. I regret that telling the story was all I did. Another student raised her hand. Would you go back? To conflict photography? No. Why not? Because I found something more important. When the lecture ended, students filed out slowly. A few stayed behind, waited in line to talk to Marcus, to shake his hand, to tell him the lecture had changed how they thought about their work. Lily sat in the back row. She'd been there the whole time, sketching, not taking notes, just present. When the last student left, Marcus walked up the aisle, sat down beside his daughter. "How'd I do?" he asked. "Good. You didn't get nervous." "I was a little nervous." "You didn't show it." They sat in the empty lecture hall. The afternoon light came through tall windows. Dust motes floated in the air. "Dad?" Lily said. "Yeah?" "Why did you really come back? To taking pictures and teaching and all of it?" Marcus looked at his daughter. 8 years old now, still small for her age, still with those serious dark eyes that saw more than they should. "You remember what you told me?" Marcus said. "Before I testified? That they'd think you did something wrong if you didn't tell the truth." "Right. And you said you knew I didn't." Lily nodded. "That's why I came back. Because you believed in me. And I needed to believe in myself enough to stop hiding." Lily considered this. Then she went back to her sketch. She was drawing the lecture hall, the podium, the projection screen. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from the department chair. "Great lecture. The students loved it." "See you next week?" He replied, "Yes." They walked out of the building together, across campus. The University of Washington sprawled green and tree-lined under a rare Seattle sun. Students sat on the grass. Bikes leaned against racks. The smell of coffee drifted from a campus cafe. Marcus's truck was parked on 15th Avenue, the same 2003 Toyota. Still rusted, still reliable. They drove home through afternoon traffic. Their apartment was different now, not bigger, but lighter somehow. The locked closet in the hallway was open. Marcus's cameras sat on a shelf. Not in storage, not hidden, just there. That evening, Marcus made dinner. Spaghetti. Lily's favorite. They ate at the kitchen table while she told him about school, about her friend Emma, about the book her teacher was reading to the class. After dinner, after dishes, Marcus said, "Come on, I want to show you something." They went out to the backyard. It was small, barely 20 feet across. But Marcus had spent the last 3 months building something there. A garden. Not for vegetables, for memory. In the center was a stone marker, engraved with a name. Amara, the little girl from Aleppo. The one Marcus couldn't save. Around the marker, flowers. Lily had helped pick them. Purple and white. Her favorites. Lily walked to the marker, knelt down, touched the stone. "Tell me about her again," Lily said. Marcus knelt beside his daughter. The evening air was cool. Somewhere a dog barked. A car drove past on the street behind them. "Her name was Amara," Marcus said. "She was 4 years old. She liked to draw, just like you." "How do you know?" "Her father told me, when I found him." Lily traced the letters of Amara's name with her finger. "Does it make you sad, having this here?" Marcus thought about that, about the weight he'd carried for 8 years, about how it felt different now. Still there, but not crushing him anymore. "Sometimes," he said, "but it also reminds me why I do this, why I teach, why I keep taking pictures, because she mattered, and remembering her matters." Lily pulled a flower from her pocket, a daisy she'd picked on the walk home from school. She placed it at the base of the marker. "I think she'd like you, Dad." Marcus's throat tightened. "Yeah?" "Yeah, because you help people, and you don't give up on them." They stayed in the garden until the light started to fade. Then Lily stood, brushed off her knees. "Dad?" "Yeah, sweetheart?" "Do you still feel lost?" Marcus looked at his daughter, at the garden, at the house behind them with lights in the windows, at the life they'd built from the pieces of the one that broke. "Sometimes," he said. "But I learned something from a very smart 5-year-old. Being lost isn't the scary part. being lost and alone is. And I'm not alone anymore. Lily smiled. Because you have me. Because I have you. They walked back inside. The house was warm. Lily went to do homework. Marcus sat on the couch. His laptop was on the coffee table, open to his email. An invitation to speak at a journalism conference. A request from a magazine for photographs from his archive. A message from the gallery that was hosting his exhibition. Lost and Found. Photographs by Marcus Chen. Opening next month in Portland. Then San Francisco. Then New York. Marcus closed the laptop, looked at the fridge. Lily's drawings were still taped there, held up with strawberry magnets. But now there were photographs too. New ones. Images Marcus had taken in the last 6 months. Not war zones, not suffering, just life. Lily at the park. The Seattle skyline at sunset. A woman selling flowers at Pike Place Market. Ordinary moments. Beautiful in their smallness. Marcus stood, walked to the window, looked out at the garden, at the marker with Amara's name, at the flowers Lily had planted. For 8 years, he'd believed he had to choose between bearing witness and helping, between documenting and doing, between the camera and the life in front of him. But maybe that was never the choice. Maybe the camera was just a tool. What mattered was what you did with it, whether you used it to hide from the world or to see it more clearly, whether you pointed it at suffering and walked away, or whether you found a way to do something about what you saw. Marcus picked up his phone, opened his contacts, found a name he hadn't called in years. His old editor at Reuters, the one who'd published the Aleppo photograph, the one who'd accepted Marcus's resignation without question when he'd come home and said he was done. The phone rang twice. "Marcus Chen," the editor said. His voice hadn't changed. "I was wondering when I'd hear from you." "I have a project," Marcus said. "Not like before. Something different." "I'm listening." "A series on people who help. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Not soldiers or celebrities. Just regular people who see suffering and choose to act." The editor was quiet for a moment. "That's a hell of a series." "I know. When can you start?" Marcus looked at the photograph on his fridge. Lily at the park, smiling at something off camera. "Next month," Marcus said. "After my daughter's school year ends. She's coming with me. That's non-negotiable." "Of course." They talked for 20 more minutes. Details, logistics. The kind of thing that used to excite Marcus before Aleppo made him question everything. It excited him again now. When he hung up, Lily was standing in the doorway. Homework done, hair brushed, ready for bed. "Was that about work?" she asked. "Yeah." "Good work or scary work?" Marcus knelt down, looked his daughter in the eye. "Good work. The kind that matters. The kind that helps." Lily hugged him, her small arms tight around his neck. "I'm proud of you, Dad. I'm proud of you, too." After Lily went to bed, Marcus stayed up late. He pulled out his cameras, cleaned the lenses, checked the batteries, loaded fresh memory cards. Then he opened his laptop, started a document, titled it Project Proposal. He wrote until midnight about ordinary heroes, about people who helped, about the moments that mattered not because they were dramatic, but because they were human, about the choice to act instead of witness, to help instead of document, or maybe, if he did it right, to do both. When he finally went to bed, Marcus lay in the dark and thought about the airport, about Priya's question, "Are you lost too?" And his answer, "Yeah, I think maybe I am." He'd meant it when he said it. He'd been lost for 8 years, but somewhere between that night and this one, between Denver and Seattle, between the storage unit and the garden, between hiding and teaching, And finally, choosing to be seen again, somewhere in there, he'd found his way home. The story began with a question. Are you lost too? A 5-year-old girl in a velvet dress, a man in a warehouse uniform, an airport terminal at midnight where nobody was paying attention, and an answer that changed everything. Yeah, I think maybe I am. That was how it started. With honesty, with two people admitting they didn't know where they were going, with the simple human act of reaching out a hand and saying, let's figure it out together. What happened after? The accusations, the viral video, the article, the testimony, the slow rebuilding of a life Marcus thought he'd lost forever. All of it came from that one moment of truth. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is admit you're lost. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is help someone else find their way. Marcus Chen learned that in an airport. He learned it from a scared little girl. And he learned it from his own daughter, who believed in him even when the world didn't. 6 months after he testified, 6 months after the deposition footage made him famous for the second time in his life. 6 months after everything changed. Marcus stood in his backyard on a Saturday evening in late spring. The air was warm. The sky was that soft purple gold that Seattle gets just before sunset. Birds sang in the neighbor's tree. The memorial garden was small, 20 feet across. Purple and white flowers that Lily had picked. A stone marker in the center with a name carved into it. Amara, the little girl from Aleppo, the one Marcus couldn't save. Lily knelt beside the marker. She placed a fresh daisy at its base. She did this every week. Had done it since the day Marcus built the garden. Tell me about her again, Lily said. Marcus sat down on the grass beside his daughter. The evening light caught the gray in his hair, the scar above his eyebrow, the lines around his eyes that came from years of looking at things most people never wanted to see. Her name was Amara, Marcus said. She was 4 years old. She loved to draw. Her father told me she used to draw flowers on everything, the walls, the floor, even on his shoes when he wasn't looking. Lily smiled. Like me? Yeah, like you. They sat in silence for a moment, the kind of comfortable quiet that only comes when two people know each other completely. Dad? Lily said. Yeah, sweetheart? Do you still feel lost? Marcus looked at the garden, at the house behind them with lights glowing in the windows, at the sky going dark, at his daughter sitting cross-legged in the grass with dirt on her knees and flowers in her hair. He thought about the question, really thought about it. Did he still feel lost? Sometimes, when he woke up at 3 in the morning and remembered the wars he'd seen, when he looked at old photographs and wondered if he'd done enough, when he thought about all the suffering in the world and how small one person's efforts felt against it. But then he thought about his classroom at the university, about the students who listened when he talked about ethics and responsibility, about the traveling exhibition that had now been seen by 500,000 people, about the new project he was working on, documenting ordinary people doing extraordinary things. He thought about Lily, growing up brave and kind and unafraid to help people, and he thought about a 5-year-old girl named Priya who'd asked him a question in an airport and given him permission to be honest. Sometimes, Marcus said, but I learned something from a very smart 5-year-old. Lily looked up at him, waiting. Being lost isn't the scary part, Marcus said. Being lost and alone is, and I'm not alone anymore. Lily leaned against him, her small shoulder pressed into his side. Because you have me. Because I have you. They stayed in the garden until the stars started to come out. Then Lily stood, brushed grass off her jeans. "Can we get ice cream?" Marcus smiled. "Yeah, we can get ice cream." They walked inside, through the house that was small but felt like home. Marcus grabbed his keys. Lily grabbed her jacket. They climbed into the truck that was old but still ran. As Marcus backed out of the driveway, he looked at the garden one more time. At the flowers, at the marker, at the small piece of earth he'd made to remember a child he couldn't save, and honor the person who'd made him stop looking away. Then he drove down the street with his daughter beside him, and the camera that used to be locked in a closet now sat on the passenger seat because Marcus Chen was no longer hiding from who he was. He was a father, a teacher, a photographer, a man who'd been broken and put himself back together, a person who'd learned that you don't have to be perfect to be good, that you don't have to save everyone to matter, that sometimes helping one person is enough. They got ice cream, chocolate for Lily, vanilla for Marcus. They sat on a bench outside the shop and watched people walk by. Couples, families, kids on bikes. The ordinary, beautiful chaos of a Saturday night in a city full of people trying to figure out their lives. "Dad?" Lily said. "Yeah? I'm glad you're not a warehouse loader anymore." Marcus looked at his daughter, ice cream on her chin, serious eyes watching him. "Why's that?" "Because now you get to teach people. And teaching is more important than boxes." Marcus wiped the ice cream off her chin with a napkin. "Teaching is important," he agreed. "But there's nothing wrong with loading boxes. Every job has dignity. Every person matters." "I know. But you're better at this one." Maybe she was right. Or maybe Marcus had just finally found the place where his skills and his values aligned, where he could use what he was good at to make a difference in a way that didn't destroy him. They finished their ice cream, drove home. Lily did homework at the kitchen table while Marcus graded essays from his students. Later, after Lily went to bed, Marcus sat on the couch with his laptop. He had an email from Rajesh Kapoor. The subject line, "Update." Marcus opened it. The photography exhibition had raised $2 million. Kapoor had matched it. All proceeds were going to organizations that helped refugees and children affected by war. The email included photographs from the exhibition opening in New York, people standing in front of Marcus's images, reading the stories, crying, understanding. At the bottom of the email, a single line. "Thank you for showing my daughter that kindness exists. And thank you for showing me what I'd been missing." Marcus closed the laptop, turned off the lights, checked on Lily one more time before bed. She was asleep with her sketchbook still open beside her. Marcus carefully closed it and set it on her nightstand. He stood in her doorway for a moment, watching her breathe, listening to the soft sounds of the house settling, feeling the weight of gratitude that comes when you realize you almost lost everything, and then, somehow, found your way back. The next morning was Sunday. Marcus woke early, made coffee, sat in the backyard while the sun came up. His phone buzzed. A text from Rachel Kim. "Thought you should see this." Below it, a link to a news article. The headline, "5-year-old Priya Kapoor starts foundation to help lost children at airports." Marcus clicked the link. Read the story. Priya had asked her father to create a foundation, to train airport staff, to install better signage, to make sure no child was ever as scared and alone as she'd been that night. The foundation was called Finding Home, and Priya had asked if Marcus would serve on the advisory board. Marcus put down his phone, looked at the garden, at Amara's marker, at the purple and white flowers swaying in the morning breeze. 8 years ago, He'd photographed a father holding his dead daughter and felt like he'd failed. Like all he could do was witness suffering and walk away. But maybe that was never the whole story. Maybe bearing witness was the first step. And what you did after, how you carried it, how you honored it, how you used it to build something better, that was where the real work began. Marcus picked up his phone, texted Rachel back, "Tell Priya yes." Then he went inside, made pancakes for Lily, sat with her while she ate, and told him about a dream she'd had about flying elephants. And later, when she asked if they could go to the park, Marcus said yes to that too. They spent the afternoon throwing a frisbee, watching clouds, talking about nothing and everything. Just a father and daughter on a Sunday in spring, living an ordinary life that felt extraordinary because they'd almost lost it, and now they knew how much it mattered. That evening, as the sun set over Seattle, Marcus took a photograph. Not for a war zone, not for an exhibition, not for anyone but himself. Just Lily on the swings, her head thrown back, laughing at something, the golden light catching her hair. A moment of joy, small, simple, real. And when Marcus looked at the image later, he realized something. This was what he'd been trying to capture all along. Not suffering, not loss, but the fierce determination of people to find happiness anyway, to build lives worth living in spite of everything, to help each other, to keep going, to refuse to be broken. That was the story worth telling. Marcus Chen had spent 5 years documenting war, 8 years loading trucks and pretending he didn't see the suffering around him. And now, finally, he was learning to see both, the pain and the beauty, the loss and the love, the questions without easy answers and the small daily acts of courage that made life bearable. He'd been lost. He'd admitted it. And in admitting it, he'd found his way home. Not to a place, to a purpose, to a daughter, to himself. Sometimes the journey is long. Sometimes it takes 8 years, and an airport, and a 5-year-old girl to show you the way. But if you're brave enough to admit you're lost, if you're kind enough to help someone else, if you're willing to be seen, even when it's hard, you might just find exactly what you've been looking for. True heroism is not found in the accolades we've earned, but in the quiet choice to help when no one is watching, and the strength to stand by that choice when the world turns against us. And sometimes the lost find each other not by accident, but by grace. Not because they have all the answers, but because they're brave enough to ask the questions, to reach out a hand, to say, "I don't know where I'm going either, but maybe we can figure it out together." And maybe that's enough.